Hello there, my name is Luciano Oliveira. I am a Brazilian attorney, and today we're going to be talking about how to understand the laws applicable to real estate for foreign citizens. It's worth mentioning that the laws, some of the laws, they're generic. They're going to apply to Brazilians and foreign citizens alike. But there are some specific requirements and specific laws for foreign citizens in Brazil. For instance, for rural property, there is a limitation in size. So if you are buying rural property in the state of Rio de Janeiro, there is going to be a limit in size for each and every municipality. So if you buy in the city of Rio de Janeiro, there's going to be a limit. If you're going to buy more like in the countryside of the state, there's going to be a different limit. We recommend that you secure the advice of an attorney to review the deed and tell you exactly what the limitation is. There is also the Terreno de marinha. Terreno de marinha is a specific type of property that has a co-ownership with the federal government. Although apartments or most houses in the city of Rio de Janeiro, even if they are Terreno de marinha, they may be bought by foreign citizens. There is a downside to these properties, which is the need to pay additional taxes on top of the regular ones. Another example of requirements applicable specifically to foreign citizens is the legalization of the documents presented for the real estate transaction. So if you are Brazilian, all your documents, of course, they are acceptable for the real estate transaction. But if you are from another country, if you are from the US, if you're from a country in Europe or Asia, you're gonna need to legalize your documents before they are acceptable in the closing. So for instance, passport, although some registries, some cartórios, they are gonna accept your passport as an international document, some registries, they are gonna ask you to have the passport sworn translated. A sworn translation is a special type of translation provided in Brazil only. In addition to this requirement, they may also ask you to get a birth certificate if you're single, or a marriage certificate if you're married, apostille, which is a process of legalization for countries that have the apostille legalization system. For instance, the US participates in the apostille system, the UK participates in the apostille system, but other countries do not participate. For instance, the United Arab Emirates. So if you are in one of those countries that do not accept the apostille legalization system, you're gonna need to take this document, either the birth certificate or the marriage certificate, to a Brazilian consulate or Brazilian embassy. There are laws that apply equally to Brazilians and foreign citizens. For instance, the taxes that you're gonna pay, the taxes are gonna be the same. It does not matter if you are Brazilian or a foreign citizen. For instance, the property transfer tax, there is a tax to be paid at closing, and this tax in Rio de Janeiro is usually between 3 to 4% of the property worth. In addition to the property transfer tax, there are also closing costs that are going to be charged by the registry. The registry, or cartório, like we say in Portuguese, is the entity in charge of regulating and handling the transfer deed signing or the closing. In Portuguese, we call it escritura. After this first closing, there is the actual issuance of a new deed, which in Portuguese we call it registro, which is done by a second and separate registry. Still, on the tax front, you're gonna have the annual property tax. Just like in other countries, every year you need to pay a tax. In Rio de Janeiro, this tax is called IPTU, and the IPTU ranges from 0.5% to 1.5% of the property value. There is an option to pay this property at the beginning of the year, usually in January, and if you pay at once, you're gonna have a large discount on the bill. If you don't take the discount, then you're gonna have an option to pay in installments, usually 10 installments, 10 monthly installments. Still, on the tax front, there is finally, when you decide to sell the property, the capital gains tax. The capital gains tax is usually 15%, and although Brazilians have an option to roll over the proceeds from a sale to a second property without paying the capital gains, there is no such an option for foreign citizens. Foreign citizens are gonna have to pay immediately after selling the property. property, even if they are going to buy a second property. That's unfortunate. We don't think it's a fair distinction, but that's how it works. And it's interesting to note that if the foreign citizen doesn't collect these taxes, the buyer is going to be forced by law to collect the taxes. So you're going to realize when you try to sell the property, this is going to come up, particularly if you're dealing with a professional real estate agency. If the buyer has an attorney, they are going to know about that, and they're going to push you to pay the taxes prior to closing, because they know once you get your money, they don't have a leverage on you anymore. Finally, there is also the need for legal compliance with regulations in terms of how you're going to use the property, in terms of getting license for constructions, or limitation how much you can build in a tract of land. All of those things can be better evaluated by a professional such as a larger real estate agency or a law firm specializing in real estate transactions. I hope this video was helpful, and follow us for more tips.